They put a gun to the mob boss' head and demanded to know where the 20-year-old girl was hiding. For 30 years, Alec Victor built an untouchable and deadly criminal empire, but tonight, held hostage in his own study, he chose silence over giving up the young American bride he acquired. He thought he was taking a brutal beating to save her life. He didn't realize she was already in the kitchen, hunting his attackers in the dark. Picture this, guys. You get a note shoved under your hotel door at 2 a.m. reading, "Marry him or watch your dad disappear." Absolute zero chill. Emily reads this crazy ultimatum, marches straight over to her dad's room, kicks the door wide open, and demands to know what on earth he did. And bro, Robert is already on the floor, not praying, but straight up begging, shaking like a leaf. That is the exact moment it hits her. This was never some innocent business trip. Listen, you and I both know that when the people closest to us start acting shady, it is time to pack your bags and run. Always trust your gut, folks. Because family can absolutely sell you out. If you are hyped for this massive drama, stick around because things are about to get totally unhinged. Let us rewind a bit to the flight from Columbus to Rome. 11 hours and 20 minutes of pure awkwardness. Emily tries to catch some sleep, but ends up spending half the flight just analyzing her dad. He is sitting there holding a drink without taking a single sip, grinding his jaw like he is practicing a massive lie. He keeps giving her these super quick, super guilty side eyes. It is the look of a man who knows he messed up big time. Emily has seen this exact same red flag her entire life. Late rent, sketchy deals falling apart, him stumbling in smelling like cheap drinks and bad choices. Here is a free life lesson for you. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. People rarely change unless they are forced to. And Robert was giving off major disaster energy. He was practically wearing a neon sign that said, "I did something terrible and you are about to pay for it." Seriously, the vibe was insanely off. Somewhere over the dark Atlantic Ocean, Emily finally calls him out. She asks him what is really going down. Robert totally panics and blurts out that is a business trip. Bro, she shuts that down instantly. She reminds him he does not even own a business. Then he pivots to claiming it is an investment. Come on, man, telling your kid to pack light, grab a passport, and keep it a secret from everyone is not an investment trip. That is a kidnapping waiting to happen. The lesson here is simple. Never let anyone gaslight you when the facts are staring you right in the face. Robert just tells her to go to sleep. Obviously. She stays wide awake. Emily spends the next 4 hours watching him like a hawk. When they finally touch down in Rome, she has zero clue what the actual plot twist is. But her survival instincts are absolute screaming. You know that creepy, gut-wrenching feeling when something is terribly wrong. Yeah, she had that. A massive black car is waiting outside, complete with a silent driver giving off major hitman vibes. Emily hops in just because her dad does, mostly to avoid throwing a tantrum in an airport at 6 a.m. Honestly, we have all compromised our boundaries to keep the peace. But here is a major life lesson. Never stay quiet just to be polite when your safety is on the line. She would deeply regret wasting those next 6 hours waiting for her cowardly dad to explain him. Spoiler alert, he never explains a single thing. He just stares out the window, gripping his hand so hard his knuckles are chalk white. After a 40-minute drive into the middle of nowhere, they pull up to a literal fortress. Huge automatic iron gates swing open before they even hit the brakes, which means security has been watching them the whole time. Big yikes. Then she spots the villa. It is massive, cream-colored, and insanely luxurious. You do not bring your 20-year-old daughter to a mafia-style mansion for a casual business chat, unless the product being sold is her. Let that be a lesson for us all. When a situation feels way too grand and secret for your normal life, somebody is playing a game you do not know the rules to. Her voice goes completely dead. Her voice always went flat when she was terrified. She asks him who lives in this crazy compound. Robert finally turns to her, and guys, his face is a whole mess. It is this wild mix of heavy guilt, sadness, and twisted relief. He looks like a guy who is finally dropping a massive burden, even if it means destroying his own kid to do it. Her stomach completely falls out. He begs her to listen and stay calm. She tells him she is calm, but when he asks for her trust, she straight up roasts him, saying she trusts him less every single time he opens his mouth. Remember, folks, trust is earned through actions, not demanded in the middle of a shady crisis. The car parks. The silent driver opens the door. Robert literally just walks away toward the entrance without saying another word. Emily just sits there in the back seat for 3 whole seconds, totally paralyzed. But what else are you going to do? You follow the trail. You step in the lion's den, and you face the music. She walks in, and the final boss is already in the room. But check this out, he is not hovering by the door waiting for them like a normal person. He is chilling in the center of the room, completely ignoring their entrance, just looking at something on his table. When he finally turns around, he moves with that slow, arrogant swagger of a guy who owns the world. He is a man who clearly has not waited for anyone in decades. The lesson today: true power never rushes. It forces everyone else to adjust to its pace. He is 57 years old, looking like an absolute menace. This guy has silver-streaked hair, peach-black eyes, and a face that screams pure authority. He is not just handsome, he is straight-up commanding. He is wearing a custom-tailored suit that probably cost more than Emily has seen in her entire lifetime. He just stands there, absolutely perfectly still. He does not even glance at her useless dad. He locks his dark eyes entirely on Emily. It is one of those intense, calculating stares that sizes you up, prices you, and buys you in under 4 seconds flat. But Emily, she stares right back. She knows from dealing with her dad that blinking first is a rookie mistake. Life lesson alert. My friends, if you want to survive a shark tank, you have to look the shark dead in the eyes and show no fear, even if you are terrified. She holds her ground and refuses to look away. You can actually see a tiny micro-expression shift on the boss's face. He respects it. Her dad introduced him as Alec Victor, sounding like a dude walking to the electric chair. Alec greets her with this incredibly smooth, flawlessly practiced Eastern European accent. His voice is super low, practically vibrating with that heavy top-tier villain energy. Emily just demands to know what is going on. Alec barely even looks at her dad and just casually orders him to leave the room. And guys, her own father actually turns and walks away. He is really going to abandon her with this mob boss. Listen, the harshest lesson in life is realizing that the people supposed to protect you will sometimes throw you right to the wolves. Her body's alarm bells are absolutely blaring right now. It is that terrifying freeze response right before the pure panic sets in. She begs Ed to away, but the coward just mumbles that it is fine and walks out. The heavy door clicks shut. Now, it is just Emily and Big Bad Wolf. She looks Alec dead in the eye and demands he start talking. Oh boy, and he does. He does not sugarcoat a single thing. He speaks with zero emotion, treating the whole situation like a dry legal contract. Because honestly, that is exactly what she's to him, turns out. Her deadbeat dad borrowed $412,000 8 years ago from the absolute worst kind of shadow bank. You know, life teaches us that secret debts always come due, and the interest is paid in blood or tears. So the dad's business totally flopped. Obviously, for 8 whole years, there were missed payments, desperate extensions, and Alec being incredibly patient. But now, that patience has completely dried up, since her dad could never pay back the cash. Alec calmly drops the biggest plot twist of the century. He says they renegotiated the terms. Emily stares at him, utter confused. Renegotiated to what exactly? Marriage, bro. She just stands there waiting for the punchline. She expects this to be some crazy mistranslation or a sick joke, but the punchline never drops. She asks if he is being serious, and this absolute menace just replies that he never jokes about contracts. Take notes, guys. When a toxic person tells you exactly who they are, believe them the very first time. She does the mental math right to his face. Is 20, he is 57. She calls him out on the insanely creepy 37-year age gap, asking how he could possibly think this was a normal deal. But Alec hits her with the ultimate reverse card. He looks her dead in the eye and says calm-it. Boom. Betrayal level over 9,000. The silence that hits the room is absolutely deafening. Emily just snaps. She does not even think about it. She grabs a heavy crystal glass off the side table, absolute launches it across the room. It smashes into the well just 6 inches from his head, showering glass everywhere. Listen, bottling up rage only leads to explosions. So sometimes you just have to break something, but wait for it. The boss does not even flinch. The man does not even blink. He literally just glances at the shattered crystal on the floor, like he's mentally adding it to a spreadsheet. Then he looks right back at her and coldly says that the next broken glass comes out of her allowance. Bro, Emily actually laughs out loud. It is this crazy, unhinged cackle because the sheer audacity of mentioning allowance in a forced mafia marriage is completely insane. She fires right back, telling him there is no deal and you cannot just buy a human being like a used car. But Alex stays chillingly calm, telling her he is not buying her. He is just forgiving a debt that would ruin her family. Here is your final lesson today, guys. Toxic people will always frame their worst actions as a favor to you. Do not fall for the gaslight trap. Listen up, you are about to dive into some absolute mafia madness today. Picture this. Emily looks this powerful boss dead in the eye and says her family is already ruined the second her dad tried to fix things. The boss coldly asks what her genius plan is then. She storms off to find her old man. He is hiding down the hall, looking totally defeated. Guys, his face is wild. It is not just guilt or shame, Emily knows those looks. She grew up with a dad who constantly messed up. But this is the face of a guy who made the worst choice of his entire existence and realized he cannot lie his way out of it. Honestly, it is a hard truth, but sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us let us down the absolute most. Emily is vibrating with rage. She demands he tell her it is a lie, begging him to say she understood this insane plot twist. But her dad croaks out that he cannot do that. His voice is shattered. Emily rushes him. Standing over this broken man with her hand shaking like crazy, she yells that he should have just told her. Whatever mafia debt this was, they could have figured it out together. But then he drops the bomb. $400,000. He says it completely dead inside. Where were they going to magically spawn $400,000? He tells her the mob threatened to collect another way, and he knew their brutal reputation. It goes to show. Running from your problems just creates a much bigger monster waiting for you at the end of the road. The dad tries to play the victim card here. He claims Emily is all he has. And he literally thought handing her over to this mafia kingpin would keep her safe. What kind of twisted logic is that? He assumed the boss's wealth would protect her. Emily is absolutely disgusted. Her voice drops into super cold, terrifying tone. She looks right at him and says, "You sold your own daughter to the mob and just crossed your fingers." He whines that he had zero choices left. But she shuts him down instantly. She warns him never to speak that garbage again, then storms out. She has no clue where she is running. Just that she has escaped is a harsh lesson, guys. The most painful betrayals usually come from the exact people who claim they are doing it for your own good. Emily manages to find a door leading outside and desperately gasps for air. She is out on this gorgeous terrace, staring at the epic skyline of Rome in the morning light. She is thinking about how wild it is that the world can look so incredibly beautiful, while her actual life is a burning dumpster fire. Then, she hears the door click. She knows who it is before she even turns around. Alec Victor, the big bad mafia don himself, steps out. He does not crowd her, but his presence is huge, like a sudden drop in temperature before a massive storm. He just stands there, totally undeniable. He casually tells her she needs to eat since she has been traveling nonstop. Honestly, finding a moment of calm during a total crisis is important. But you always have to keep your guard up when the enemy starts acting nice. Emily is not having any of it. She snaps at him to stop. She whips around and tells this mafia boss that he does not get to play the caring host. He does not get to act concerned when he is the evil mastermind who built this whole trap. But Alec just stares right back, completely unfazed. He drops a harsh truth. He says her dad built this mess, and he is just offering a way out when she calls him out. Saying his way out obviously benefits him. Alec just nods and says yes, of boom. That raw honesty totally throws Emily off balance. She was ready for the classic villain speech, the toxic gaslighting these powerful guys always use. Instead, he just owns it. It proves a solid point in life. A straightforward enemy is sometimes way easier to deal with than a lying friend. She turns back to the garden and lays down the law. She tells him this is not some chess move or a negotiation tactic. She vows she will never agree to his terms, not today, not ever. No matter what sketchy contract her dad signed or how much power Alec thinks he holds, she will fight him tooth and nail. She demands to know if he understands. Alec drops a heavy pause, looks at her, and says he understands completely, and actually expected nothing less. Then he casually walks back inside. Emily is left gripping the railing until her knuckles turn white. But guys, she is not just scared anymore. There is this weird spark of adrenaline. She stood up to a literal kingpin, and he did not belittle her. Real respect is earned when you hold your ground, especially when you are completely outmatched. She just dropped an absolute refusal on a man, holding every single winning card, and instead of crushing her, he acknowledged her strength. Emily mentally files that detail away because she needs every scrap of intel to survive this mess. A bit later, a woman named Sophia tracks her down. Sophia is moving with this intense, quiet authority. She is clearly the ultimate fixer. The kind of person who runs the whole mafia mansion behind the scenes. Sophia politely tells Emily her room is ready. Emily claps back, saying she would rather have her passport and a ride to the airport. But here is the plot twist. Sophia calm reveals her passport is already in her room, totally untouched. Emily is completely stunned. It is a good reminder to stay sharp, 'cause sometimes your enemy's kindness is their best weapon. Sophia repeats it perfectly. The passport is right in her bag. She says Mr. Victor wants Emily to know she is not a prisoner here. Emily immediately tests the waters, asking if she can walk out. Sophia hesitates for a split second and says he would prefer she didn't. Emily snaps back that preferring is not the same as letting her leave. For a brief second, Sophia's icy professional mask lips. When Emily gets to her massive, sunlit room, her backpack is right there. She rips it open, grabs the passport, and checks it like her life depends on it. It is real. Alec did not take it. Every single move this mob boss makes is a calculated choice. It is crazy how giving someone the illusion of freedom can trap them way faster than locking them in a literal cage. Emily has only been here 45 minutes, but she is already reading his game plan. Alec chose to hit her with the brutal truth. He chose to step out on that terrace and now, he chose to let her keep her passport. She knows this is not out of the goodness of his heart. She is way too smart for that. This is pure, top-tier psychological control. By letting her keep the passport, he is forcing her to waste all her mental energy figuring out if she can actually escape. She will be agonizing over the risks, instead of plotting a wild counterattack he might not see coming. He is keeping her busy. Always remember, if someone hands you an easy out during a high-stakes conflict, they have probably already rigged the exit. It is a masterful, terrifying strategy. She tucks the passport right in the front pocket of her bag, keeping it close just in case she needs to bolt. She pulls out her phone and shoots a text to her friend Dana, telling her not to panic and absolutely not to call the cops. Dana fires back in 30 seconds flat, threatening to call every authority on the planet if Emily does not explain within 10 minutes. Emily cracks a tiny smile. She types back that she is safe and promises to explain later. But after hitting send, she just stares at that word. Safe. She drops the phone, staring at the ceiling, forcing her brain into pure survival mode. She has done this a million times thanks to her dad's messes. Life throws crazy curveballs, but keeping a cool, methodical head is your best armor when everything else is falling apart. Let's break down her inventory together. She has a phone with a terrible signal. She has a totally useless father who might serve a purpose later. Downstairs, she has a mafia don who holds every single advantage. But he already made 3 choices, proving he is not just a brainless tug looking for pure domination. It is a small advantage, but it counts. She has her own brain. That stubborn, hardcore survivor mindset that dragged her through her mom walking out, her dad's epic failures, and working brutal double shifts just to save $1,100. That part of her refuses to stop looking for an escape hatch. It just proves that your absolute best asset in any nightmare scenario is your own resilience. Nobody can steal your grit unless you hand it over. She vows to find a way out. Her master plan: march right downstairs the next morning, sit across from Alec Victor, look him dead in the eye, and figure out exactly what makes this boss tick. You literally can outsmart an enemy you do not understand. And Emily Harper never stopped scheming. She is only 20 years old, stranded in a foreign country with 0 allies, 0 backup, and a father who traded her entire future to clear his messy past. But this untouchable mafia boss made one massive rookie mistake. He let her keep her sanity in her sharp mind. That oversight is going to cost him big time. It is a classic underdog lesson. Never underestimate someone who has absolute nothing left to lose, because that is when they become incredibly dangerous. She decides to go to breakfast. Going to breakfast is a perfectly calculated move. It is almost 8 in the morning. She is staring into the mirror, jaw locked, eyes filled with pure determination. Sure, she could have hidden in her room. She could have boycotted the meal entirely. But hiding means giving up the first major power play. And Emily did not survive 20 years of chaos by letting someone else control the board. She walks downstairs at exactly 8 o'clock sharp. Alec is already chilling at the table, sipping coffee and reading a physical newspaper like a classic mafia don. When she walks in, he gives her that exact same calculating look from the night before, sizing her up and filing away every detail. Taking control of the tiny details is how you start winning back your life, step by step. Alec casually points to the chair across from him, and she takes a seat. Sophia materializes out of thin air, pouring coffee like a phantom. Emily grips her mug with both hands, locking eyes directly with Alec. They sit there in total silence for 30 entire seconds. That is an eternity when two people are caught in a massive standoff. Finally, Emily breaks the silence. She does not speak first because she is weak. She does it because gathering intel is way more crucial right now than playing a silly staring contest. She demands to know what this twisted mafia arrangement actually looks like on a daily basis. Alec slowly folds his paper, locks onto her, and gives her his complete attention. Knowing when to drop your ego to gather facts is a true superpower everyone should master. So get this, guys, our girl Emily is suddenly locked in this insane billionaire mafia arrangement. The boss, Alec, is literally laying down the law, telling her she has maids, Italian lessons, and a personal driver. But Emily is not stupid. She immediately clocks that the driver is basically a highly paid babysitter, reporting right back to the Don. He calls it considerable freedom within parameters, which is just a fancy way of saying she is trapped in a gilded cage and has to play the role of his perfect partner at fancy galas. It just goes to show, you should always read the fine print in life, because absolute comfort usually comes with invisible chains. Then Emily drops the heavy question and asks when the actual wedding is happening. And guys, the answer Alec gives completely throws her off balance. He calmly sips his coffee and says the timeline is fully negotiable, no forced vows, no creepy demands. He just wants her visible when he needs her for his mob politics, and he promises nothing happens without her total consent. Emily is totally shook. She was braced for some twisted, manipulative mind games, but instead she gets this raw, unfiltered bluntness that short-circuits her brain. She can't help but ask him why he chose her, honestly. It is a good reminder that sometimes the most disarming thing you can, is just tell the absolute truth. Emily is not letting this go without a fight. She looks this powerful, terrifying mafia boss right in the eyes and demands to know why her father owes a debt that has to be paid with her. She thinks her dad has assets left to take, but Alec drops a total bomb. Her dad is completely broke dust, nothing left. So Emily goes straight for the throat and asks the darkest question imaginable. Why not just hurt her dad like other ruthless mobsters do? The tension in the room spikes instantly as Alec quiet repeats her words. Men like me. The lesson here is pretty heavy. Be careful when you make assumptions about people based purely on their reputation, because you might just be missing the real story entirely. Alec does not blow up like a typical villain. Instead, he reveals something wild. Emily says dad actually spent the last 8 years working him to the bone, taking humiliated jobs just to pay off his massive debt. Alec actually respects that hustle. It completely flips the script. Emily assumes this twisted deal is some kind of sick mercy. But Alec's cold logic, he is 15 years old, sitting on a massive empire, and has absolute zero heirs to inherit it. Her dad practically handed him the ultimate loophole. This whole exchange teaches us something super important. In the real world, intent matters just as much as the outcome, and acknowledging someone's hard effort can completely alter how you treat them. Let us take a closer look at the reaction Emily has here. Guys, she is staring down this silver-haired boss, scanning him for any sign of a lie. She grew up surrounded by liars, so her radar is flawless. But here is the terrifying part. She does not detect a single ounce of deceit. That absolute honesty scares her more than threats. Stepping up like a total boss hearse, she starts firing off demands. She wants unmonitored tech, books, and a quick 10-minute lifeline call to her best friend Dana, just to say she survived. Alec shoots down the unmonitored laptop instantly. Because security is security, it is a harsh reality check that setting boundaries is crucial, even when you are the one holding all the power. Alec actually caves on the phone call to Dana and promised to get her the books right away. But just as Emily is about to bounce, she hits him with the ultimate trap question. She asks if her dad offered her up, or if Alec demanded it. The silence in that room gets so thick you could slice it with a knife. Alec tries to deflect, but Emily stands her ground, demanding to know the truth. Finally, he confesses the brutal reality: her own father was the one who threw her under the bus. And Alec just signed the paperwork. Emily thanks him for his honesty and walks away, catching his quiet reply echoing down the hall. It really shows us that sometimes the hardest truths hurt the most, but facing reality is the only way to heal. After dropping that absolute nuke of a conversation, the hands on Emily actually stop shaking. She is regaining her control. By Wednesday, she is neck-deep in Italian lessons, and on Thursday, her new discreet trainer hands over a brutal workout schedule. Emily does not even flinch. She realizes that no matter how messed up this mafia hostage situation is, Getting physically and mentally stronger is her best chance at surviving. She goes all in, grinding so hard that by week 2, she is already stealthily eavesdropping on the secret conversations of the mob staff. You and I should really take notes here. When life completely derails your plans, focusing on self-improvement is the ultimate strategy to claw your way back. Guys, look at our girl Emily playing absolute 4-dimensional chess here. She doesn't tell Alec a single thing. In this underworld, information is literal currency, and she is hoarding every penny for the fallout. On day 3, she hops on a strict 10-minute call with Dana. Dana is an absolute wreck, sobbing and begging for a location. Emily casually drops that she is in Italy and says it is complicated. Dana freaks out like, "Call the cops complicated." Emily tells her to trust her and keep her mouth shut. When Dana asks if she is safe, Emily just stares at her hidden passport, remembering how Alec took 1 second too long to answer at breakfast. Lesson here: always trust your gut when someone hesitates. That 1 second of silence tells you everything you need to know. Emily tells Dana she thinks she is safe, but we all know that is definitely not a yes. She promised to call back. And Dana gives her exactly 2 weeks before she catches a flight to Italy. Emily hangs up, takes a deep breath, and goes full boss mode. She tracks down Sophia and drops a wild reading list, 12 specific books. We are talking Italian law, contract theory, and literally how criminal syndicates are structured, plus 3 novels, because a girl needs an escape to survive those dark nights. Sophia doesn't even blink and delivers the whole stack by 7. Then comes day 11, and the plot thickens. Alec hits her with a social event warning 3 days out. Listen up, you and I both know knowledge is power. Always edge eat yours before the sharks come biting. Alec delivers the news about this Friday dinner in his usual cold, absolute boss way. He drops it as a pure fact. But there is totally a hidden test underneath. He says he wants her to meet some business associates. Emily, completely unfazed, asks what kind of business. Alec looks her dead in the eye and says it is the kind that doesn't like questions at the dinner table. She calls it criminal, and he smooths it over as complex. Wow, Emily actually weighs her options here. Refusing keeps her safe, but going lets her see the real Alec Viator in his natural mob habitat. She agrees to go, but tells him she needs a dress since she didn't pack for a mafia gala. Sometimes in life, you have to step right in the fire to see who is holding the matches. Face your fears head on. The very next morning, Sophia shows up with 3 stun dress options. Emily is so smart here. She picks the simplest, darkest one. It perfectly screams that she is present, but absolutely not performing for these mobsters. But here is the creepy part: it fits her like a glove. That means someone has been watching her very closely, and she locks that detail away. The dinner itself is insane. 12 heavy hitters, sitting around a massive table, dripping in old money, sipping expensive wine. They are swapping seamlessly between English, Italian, and secret language like they own the world. Take a note from Emily here, guys. When you enter a room where everyone wants to intimidate you, the absolute best armor you can wear is quiet confidence. For the first hour, Emily sits right next to the boss himself and says absolutely nothing. She is just scanning the room, gathering pure intel. She watches how the entire table revolve around Alec. It is not just raw fear, though you can definitely feel that bubbling under the surface. It is this intense, gravitational speaks. Everyone shuts up. When he is silent, the whole vibe of the room shifts. Then, this older, heavy-set mobster with cold-lit eyes leans across the table and calls her the American girl. He thinks he can bully her. But Emily stares right in his soul and drops her name, then fires back, "And who are you?" The table freezes in total shock. Stand your ground. People, you teach others exactly how to treat you, so never let anyone disrespect you. Listen up, guys. This is a masterclass in mafia power dynamics. These underworld heavyweights expect total fear. But Emily looks this enforcer dead in the eye. He flashes a freezing smile. "I am Dimitri," he says. Then tests her by asking what she thinks of their boss, Alec. She casually roasts the size of Alec's house, getting actual laughs from the back of the room. Dimitri is fuming now. He demands to know what she thinks of Alec as a man. The whole table goes dead silent, waiting for her to crack. But Emily just taps her wine glass and drops a truth bomb. She says Alec values honesty. Make him either admirable or highly dangerous. Here is a simple life lesson for you. When aggressive people try to back you into a corner, calm confidence is your absolute greatest shield. The room goes completely dead silent, absolute crickets. Then Alec, the mafia boss, lets out this sound. It is not quite a full laugh, but it is getting there. Dimitri just stares at Emily, leans back, and mutters that she is interesting, then literally ignores her the rest of the night. Fast forward to the car ride home. The tension is crazy thick. Alec finally asks if her savage move was dangerous or admirable. Emily does not even blink. She tells him she did it on purpose to prove Dimitri's little mind games do not work on her. Alec reminds her Dimitri has been running the underworld for 30 years. It just goes to show you, guys. Sometimes standing your ground against the biggest bully in the room is the only way to earn their respect. Alec tells her straight up. No one has talked to Dimitri like that in 20 years. Emily snaps back that someone should have done it ages ago. Absolute boss energy. Then Alec drops a massive compliment, saying she did well. Emily keeps her guard up, insisting she did not do it for him. But when Alec replies, there is a totally unexpected layer of deep respect in his voice. Fast forward to day 14 at the Mafia Villa. Emily is secretly mapping out the mansion, checking every corner. She pushes open what she thinks is just a boring supply closet at the end of the east hallway. Spoiler alert, it is definitely not a closet. The simple lesson here is that preparation is absolutely everything. Always know your exits before you find yourself trapped in a terrible situation. So she steps aside and boom, it is a fully furnished hidden study. Alec is not the one inside. Instead, there is a teenager, maybe 16 or 17 years old. He sits there with headphones on, staring hard at a textbook. The second he realizes the door is open, his focus shatters. He rips off his headphones and locks eyes with Emily. He has these dark, intense eyes, exactly like Alec's, with a face that is young but already hardened. His accent, a lighter version of the boss's. When Emily asks who he is, the kid straightens up and drops the name Nikolai. It is a wild reminder that everyone has hidden chapters in their story. You can never truly know what heavy secret someone is protecting behind closed doors, until you accidentally stumble right in them. The kid looks right at her and says Alec Victor is his father. You guys, the plot twist is insane. Emily's whole world just spins out of control. The ruthless mafia boss actually has a 16-year-old son hiding in a secret room. Literally nobody mentioned this kid. Not during dinner. Not anywhere. Emily blurts out that she had no idea he existed. Nikolai gets this heavy look and admits his dad keeps him a secret because it is safer. When Emily asks who it is safer for, the kid just replies, both of us. Emily stares at this teenager, and her entire view of Alec totally flips. It teaches you a really solid lesson about life. The toughest people out there often have the biggest vulnerabilities, and they will go to absolute extremes to protect the innocent people they truly care about. Think about how heavy that is, a mob boss hiding his own blood, and a teenager accepting a life in the shadows because he knows the deadly cost of being seen. Emily shifts gears and asks what he is studying. Nikolai is caught off guard, but says he is prepping for a university math exam. When she asks if he is any good, the kid drops his guard and confidently says he is very good. Emily just wishes him luck and shuts the door. She stands there in the hallway, completely mind blown, having to rethink everything she believed about Alec. He is not just some heartless monster after all. It really shows that taking a moment to understand someone's hidden struggles can completely change your perspective on who they are. We are all so much more than our absolute worst reputations. She realized Alec built this terrifying empire but is desperately trying to shield his innocent teenager right in the middle of it. This does not magically excuse his crimes, but it gives Emily real, unfiltered truth for the very first time. She locks this secret away in her brain for later, like the absolute tactician she is. Back in her room, she tries to read a thick Italian law book until her brain practically melts, lying in the dark. She can't stop thinking about Nikolai saying it is safer with zero emotion. Like living in a cage is totally normal, it is a harsh life lesson. Really, kids always adapt to broken environments we put them in, absorbing the trauma as if it is just a regular day. We really have to be so careful about the dangerous worlds we build around them. Emily just stews on this huge revelation for ages, without even trying to. She begins to see the messy reality behind the ruthless man, who completely wrecked her old life. She is definitely not ready to forgive him yet. But for the first time since Rome, she falls asleep without clenching her fist in pure rage. Fast forward to day 23 at the villa. Stick with me, because this is the exact moment everything hits the fan. It starts off super quiet, which is exactly how these mafia attacks always go down. The biggest lesson you can take from this is that true danger never knocks on your front door or announces itself. It creeps in when you finally let your guard down and think you are completely safe. You always have to stay sharp when things feel a little too peaceful. The worst nights always start totally normal, buried under dinner chats and the muffled bass of Nikolai's music down the hall. It is nearly midnight, and Emily is wide awake. She has spent every single night obsessively analyzing her insane situation, figuring out who holds the real power. She has that law book open, but she is not reading a single word. She is on high alert, just listening, by now. She knows every tiny sound in that massive villa, the creaking steps, the heater humming, and the exact 12-minute patrol route of security guards. Her hyper-awareness is literally next level. It teaches us a huge lesson about survival, paying close attention to the boring. Everyday details can literally save your life when everything suddenly goes completely off the rails. Emily memorized those guard patterns purely on instinct, thanks to a rough childhood where knowing the quickest exit was mandatory. Then, at exactly 11:47, the pattern breaks. She hears glass shatter. It is not a chaotic crash. It is quiet, controlled, and chillingly professional. Hitmen are inside the house. Her survival instincts kick in immediately, and she is moving before her brain even processes the fear. She cracks her door open in the pitch-black hallway, relying on the emergency lights. In those 3 tense seconds, she hears something terrifying from the floor below, a weird, muffled sound she can't even identify. The life lesson here is simple. Never ignore your gut feelings. If your instincts scream that something is deeply wrong, act immediately. Suddenly, she hears a foreign voice barking aggressive orders down below. It is not one of Alec's usual mafia guys. Emily does not freeze up. She instantly pivots left, sprinting straight toward Nikolai's room. She does not even hesitate. She knows this 16-year-old kid is sitting duck. She smacks his door hard but keeps her voice in an urgent whisper, telling him to wake up. It takes 4 agonizing seconds before the door flies open. Nikolai is already on high alert, and Emily can tell instantly from his face that he heard the break in 2. She demands to know their fastest escape routes. It is a powerful reminder that true bravery is not always fighting the villains. Sometimes, it is stepping up to protect the innocent people around you before you try to save yours. Nikolai does not waste a second asking questions. He directs her to a hidden service stairwell disguised as a wall panel, shoving his shoes on fast. Emily whispers she heard breaking glass near the east side. Nikolai's face drops in panic. Realizing that exactly where his father's office is located, Emily grabs him, demanding they run. Knowing his dad is a boss who can handle him, they bolt. They reach the hidden stairs, slip through the fake panel, and vanish in the dark stairwell. Emily holds her breath, gripping the kid's shoulder as they hear heavy footsteps moving right beneath them. The biggest lesson here is to always take fast, decisive action during a crisis. Hesitation in a highly dangerous situation will literally cost you absolutely everything you care about. They hear heavy boots stomping on the stone floors downstairs. The scary part is the noise is fading, meaning the hit squad is getting dangerously stealthy. Nikolai whispers their escape plan leads right through the kitchen to the gardens. Emily asks about the outside security. Nikolai points out the east side was supposed to have 3 guards, but he only heard 2 doing their rounds tonight. Emily realizes instantly that the hitmen already silently took out the missing guard. This is a highly orchestrated mafia hit, not a random robbery. She locks in, ordering him to stay low and avoid the east side at all costs. It proves that in life, paying attention to what is suddenly missing is often way more important than noticing what is actually there. Those tiny hidden details save lives. Alright, picture this. Guys, Nikolai looks at Emily completely stunned and says she sounds like a pro at dodging trouble. Her response: straight fire. She tells him she grew up broke in Ohio, which is basically survival of the fittest. They sneak downstairs in the pitch-black kitchen. Emily navigates purely by memory, like an absolute boss, because she spent the last 3 weeks mapping out every inch of this mansion. You and I both know preparation is the ultimate weapon, right? That is the real lesson here. Always do your homework. Suddenly, Alex, his voice bleeds through the well. No panic, just that ice-cold, tightly wound tone of a dangerous man handling a massive threat. He drops the ultimate hammer. You came to my house. Listen to me, guys. We are dropping straight into absolute peak mafia vendetta today. Picture this scene. Some rival goons actually have the audacity to bust in the boss's house with guns. The Don is perfectly calm, asking them if they realize they just signed their own death warrants. But these clones just tell him to sit down. The disrespect is insane. A massive crash echoes through the halls. The boss's 16-year-old son, Nikolai, is ready to throw his life away and rush in. But out of nowhere, Emily snatched him by the collar. This absolute legend uses pure leverage to pin down a future mob boss. She whispers right in his ear to stay put. The kid is shaking with pure fury, ready to charge armed men. But Emily drops the ultimate truth bomb on him, saying they need him alive. Emily looks this furious kid dead in the eyes and says his life is the only currency they have left. And boom, the stubborn mafia hair actually listens to her. Emily finally breathes. But the tension is still through the roof. She peeks through the gap on the kitchen door and spots 3 pairs of heavy boots. At least 3 armed hitters are prowling the halls. Now picture this. Even with guns pointed at him, Alex, the absolute boss, is speaking in a completely calm, chillingly measured voice. The intruders are the ones getting loud and panicking. Alex is totally flipping the power dynamic on them while sitting down. Meanwhile, Emily is scanning that kitchen like a tactical genius, looking for any way out of this nightmare before the goons realize she is hiding right under their noses. Just appreciate the pure survival instincts on display here. Emily maps out the entire room in 4 seconds flat, knives to the left. Old landline phone on the wall, unlocked delivery door right behind her. She turns to Nikolai and tells him to make a run for it. She gives him the ultimate stealth mission, telling him to sneak out the south wall, find the guards, and then make as much noise as humanly possible to draw attention. The kid asks what her plan is, and this absolute madwoman is already grabbing the phone. She punches in the one secret emergency number she memorized weeks ago. The head maid had slipped it to her inside a law test book with that classic ominous look of, "I hope you never have to use this." Well, the time has officially come, and Emily is dropping the ultimate distress signal right now. The phone rings exactly once before a totally unknown guy picks up. Emily speedruns the situation, telling him there are 3 intruders. The boss is hostage, and she is getting the hair to safety. The mystery guy on the line just demands her location and tells her to hold her ground. Emily turns back to Nikolai and orders him to leave right this second. This is a massive character development moment. The kid looks at her with the exact same calculating eyes as his mafia boss father. He realized Emily risked her own life just to pull him out of his room before the hit squads found him. He knows she did not have to do that. But she just tells him to go. He vanishes out the back door like a ghost, leaving our girl completely alone, crouching behind a kitchen island while literally waiting for all hell to break loose. Things are rapidly going off the rails in the study. The intruder's voice is getting way higher and totally unhinged. Whatever mind games the boss was playing to stall them are starting to fail. Then, the most terrifying plot twist drops. Emily hears the goons ask for her. They are hunting the American girl, and this is where the absolute boss energy of Alex shined through. He is sitting there with 3 loaded guns in his face. And what does he do? Dead silence. He refused to sell her ow. Emily realized this cold mafia boss is literally choosing to take a bullet rather than hand over her location. Here is a simple lesson for you guys. Sometimes the most dangerous man in the room is the only one actually willing to protect you. Alec is proving his loyalty in the most intense way possible. There is 0 time to get emotional about the boss saving her, because those heavy combat boots are stomping right toward her kitchen. Emily leaves the open phone line on the counter and goes straight into absolute survival mode. She grabs a massive knife from the block. Now, she is not dumb enough to try and win a sword fight against heavy firearms, but she absolutely refuses to die cowering on the floor. She stands tall, hiding the blade flat against her forearm like a trained assassin. All those intense self-defense sessions with the mob's personal trainer are suddenly making perfect sense. She is locking in, ready to use her entire body as a weapon. The tension is so incredibly thick you could slice it. The kitchen door slowly creeps open, and a single, heavily armed hitman steps into her domain. It is officially going down. The fact that this absolute tank of a hitman was sent alone means they are specifically hunting her down to use as leverage against the Dawn. But this guy is completely stunned to find a 20-year-old girl just standing perfectly still in the dark, staring daggers into his soul. That split second of total confusion is all the opening our girl needs. Emily launches the kitchen knife, but here is the massive brain play. She does not aim for the guy, because throwing knives at armed guards only works in movies. She snipes the light switch. The handle smashes the switch, plunging the entire room into pitch-black darkness. Before the goon can even blink, Emily is already flying across the kitchen. She tackles him low and hard from the blind side, using exactly what her combat trainer taught her to completely shatter his balance. You and both know you cannot out-muscle a literal mafia enforcer, but Emily uses pure leverage, momentum, and home field advantage to completely wreck this guy in the dark. She pins his gun arm against the wall and slams her elbow straight into his joint. The guy groans, the weapon hits the floor, and she punts that thing across the room in the void. The hitman recovers and brutally throws her off. She crashes into the island, getting the wind totally knocked out of her lungs. With only 1 second before this monster grabs her, she ducks low, dodging his massive reach, and bolts straight out the door. She is sprinting down the corridor like her life depends on it. She makes it out, heart pounding out of her chest, entering the most agonizing 4 minutes of waiting in her entire life while chaos erupts behind her. She finally runs into the Don's personal squad sprinting up from the south entrance. The young hare actually pulled off the mission and sent the cavalry. Emily points them straight toward the study and hangs back in the hallway. For 4 straight minutes, all she can hear is the absolute brutal sound of mafia violence echoing through the walls. Just pure, unseen chaos. Then, dead silence. Suddenly, she hears Alec's voice, completely steady, casually giving cleanup orders like he just finished a business meeting. And the boss steps out. When he spots Emily, he literally freezes, for a split second. This completely untouchable mafia kingpin looks at her with pure, unfiltered relief. It is that raw look of a man who thought he lost everything, right before he slaps his icy, professional mask back on. The boss looks at her and states that she is not hurt, but you can hear the desperate question hidden underneath his tone. Emily holds her ground, totally steady, and tells him she is fine and that his men secured the kitchen hitman. Then she hits him with the biggest news. She looks him dead in the eyes and says his son is completely safe. When she says that, Alec's entire facade almost shatters. An emotion so deep and intense flashes across his face that it defies explanation. He literally has to stare at the ceiling for 2 seconds, just to stop him from breaking down, before locking his ice stare back into place. He realizes she ran straight into danger to save his 16-year-old boy before she even thought about saving herself. Emily tells him straight up. She will absolutely never apologize for protecting his kid. Alec just soft replies that he is not angry at all. The hallway is swarming with his enforcers now. Absolute chaos everywhere. But to Emily, the entire world just fades to background noise. The adrenaline crash finally hits her like a freight train, and she starts violently shaking. She was a total stone-cold warrior during the fight, but now her hands will not stop trembling. And of course, the boss notices immediately, because this mastermind literally misses nothing. He steps right up to her and does the absolute last thing you would expect from a ruthless mobster. He gently wraps his warm hands over hers, holding them perfectly steady for 5 seconds just to ground her. Then, boom. The emotional walls go right back up. He steps away, fully professional again, and orders his staff to escort her safely back to her room. Before she leaves, Emily demands to know who sent the hit squad. Alec drops one single, bone-chilling word, Dimitri. His voice is so cold it could literally freeze a room. He explains that the slimy rival boss from their recent dinner party decided some verbal disrespect was not enough of a test. Emily suddenly flashes back to that heavy-set dude staring her down at the table. She thought she had just embarrassed him, but no. That absolute creep was running a full threat assessment on her. She slowly realizes this massive shootout happened just because of what she said at dinner. But Alec corrects her with the ultimate mafia logic. He says Dimitri didn't attack because of her words. He sent heavily armed goons because he looked at this young, innocent girl and foolishly thought she was the Don's biggest vulnerability. You and I are going to unpack this massive revelation together. Alec tells her the enemy wanted to use her to destroy his empire, but they were dead wrong about her being weak. Emily pieced it all together like an absolute genius. She looks at the boss and says, "He was testing to see if you cared about me enough to exploit it." And Alec just says, "Yes." She tells him that now the enemy knows the truth. But this time, there is zero mafia calculation in his voice, just pure, raw honesty. The hitmen were sent to see if the cold-hearted boss would break to keep her safe, by refusing to give up her location in that study. Alec basically confessed his feelings to the entire underworld. The enemy was right all along. Never forget. True loyalty is when someone is willing to risk their empire to keep you safe. Alright guys, stick with me here because the tension in this mafia house is literally off the charts. Emily looks the boss dead in the eye and tells him they will talk tomorrow. Total boss move. She heads upstairs and finds the mob Herr Himpf, Nikolai, waiting out her door. The kid is still in his shoes, hair totally wrecked. Jaw clenched tight because he is terrified but too proud to admit it. She asks if he is okay. He mumbles yes, but then drops the heavy stuff. He tells her she did not have to risk her neck to save him, adding that normal people run for their lives when they see his father's dark world. Emily just leans on the wall, staring at this kid who grew up locked inside a dangerous, rich bubble. Life lesson here. Guys, sometimes the people with the most money and power are absolutely starving for just one real friend. Emily looks at him and drops the coolest line. She says, "I am not most people." Nikolai looks up. And for the absolute first time since she busted into his life 3 weeks ago, the kid actually smiles. It is a quick, crooked little grin that finally makes him look like a normal teenager instead of a mafia robot. He agrees with her and heads off to bed. Meanwhile, Emily ducks in her own room, sits in the pitch dark, and completely loses her cool. She is doing the deep breathing drills her old trainer, Marco, taught her, desperately trying to slow down her racing heart. All she can think about is the boss, Alec, wrapping his massive hand over hers for 5 whole seconds. It just goes to show that you can put up the absolute toughest front in the world, but your racing heart is always going to tell you the real truth. She can't stop thinking about how steady his hand was, and more importantly, how Alec refused to rat her out when his enemies demanded to know where she was hiding. Emily is super smart, so she is analyzing this purely as raw data. She knows the difference between a guy reacting on instinct and what his actual character is. She realizes the boss did not just lock her in a cage in a moment of extreme pressure, with absolutely zero audience and nothing to gain. He chose to protect her. This completely shatters the image of the ruthless monster she expected to deal with when she first landed in Rome. This guy is a walking plot twist, completely breaking all the mafia rules, because at the end of the day, true character is exactly what a person does when nobody else is watching them. Emily is completely spinning out because she has no idea what to do with the real Alec. Forget the insane age gap. Forget the dangerous mafia arrangement. She is confused about the man himself. This is the exact same guy who gave her straight answers every single time, and tonight he literally took a brutal beating just to keep her safe. That is insane. She knows one thing for sure now: she cannot treat this guy like just another problem to solve. The vibe has totally shifted. She is no longer looking at him as an enemy or a wall blocking her path. She is finally seeing him as a deeply complicated, fully human guy, even if she is way too scared to put a name on whatever this feeling is. You can plan all you want, but you can never outsmart your own deeply buried feelings. She is not even close to figuring it all out, but as she lies there in the pitch black, she finally relaxes her hands. No clenched fists tonight. Her last thought before falling asleep is not about fake passports, escape routes, or calling the cops. Instead, she fixated on the guy who held her shaking hands and then just stepped back, asking for literally nothing. Fast forward to 7 in the morning. The crazy mafia mansion is barely waking up from the chaos of last night, and the promised chat finally happens. The big bad boss actually comes to find her himph. He does not send his maid Sophia. He does not text her. And he does not demand she report to his fancy office. Sometimes the quietest, most unselfish gestures hold way more power over someone than a loud demand ever could. The absolute dawn of this empire actually knocks on her door. When Emily opens it, she is stunned because the guy looks like he has not slept a single wink. For a boss who is usually dressed to kill and perfectly put together, this is wild. His suit jacket is long gone. His shirt is unbuttoned, and he is showing actual vulnerability for the first time. She spots a nasty cut on his jaw that was hidden in the dark last night. She instantly tells him he is hurt, but he tries to brush it off as nothing. Emily is not having it. She commands the mafia boss to sit down so she can clean it up with her first aid kit. Alec just stares at her, completely frozen. He is totally caught off guard. Letting your guard down and showing your messy side is the ultimate test of trust in any dynamic. Pay close attention, because the tension in this room is incredible. Believe it or not, the terrifying mob boss actually listens to her. He steps inside, sits by the window, and stays completely frozen while Emily cleans his wound. They do not say a single word for 2 whole minutes, but honestly that silence speaks volumes. Finally, Emily drops the name of the rival who attacked them. Dimitri. Alec does not even blink. He just looks her dead in the eye and says the guy has been handled and will not be sending anyone else. We all know what handled means in the mafia world. Emily stares right back at him, but then just goes back to work. Sometimes willful ignorance is your absolute best survival tool, when the gritty truth is simply too dark to handle. Emily realizes she has grown up fast in this brutal underworld. She tries to take the blame, saying the rival only attacked because of her. But Alec shuts that down instantly. He tells her the guy was hunting for excuse for 3 years, and she was just the spark, not the fuel. Then the boss totally shifts gears. He brings up how Emily ran straight to his son Nikolai's room during the attack. His voice gets super heavy, loaded with an emotion Emily cannot even identify. He tells her that in 20 years of ruling the criminal underworld, dealing with thugs and greedy partners, not a single person has ever made his son their first priority. If you truly want to earn loyalty that money absolute cannot buy, you just have to look out for the people that someone loves the most. Emily looks the most dangerous man in the city right in the eyes and says, he is just a kid, no matter what crazy mob war is happening. He is still a child. Alec stares back, and that heavy, unnamed emotion in his eyes flares up strong than ever. He quietly agrees with her. The vibe in that bedroom is shifting so fast. You can literally feel the trust building between them in the morning light. It is not some massive dramatic explosion, but a slow, steady burn that changes the entire temperature of the room. But Emily, being the brilliant strategist she is, instantly cashes in on this new trust. She completely switches topics and demands to talk to her own father. Real trust is never built overnight. It is a slow burn that builds up drop by drop until it suddenly overflows. Alec just gives her a single nod and says he will arrange a phone call. But Emily is not backing down today. She demands to see her dad in person. No bodyguards, no Suvai's nonsense. There is this incredibly tense pause while the Mafia Don weighs his options. Then, completely shocking her, he agrees to set it up for after lunch. Emily is mind blown. She literally asks him why he is not arguing with her. Alec slowly stands up, moving super stiffly because he took some serious hits last night that he is trying to hide. He tells her he never wanted to cut her off from her family. Emily claps back, reminding him that their whole arrangement has been completely mutating since day one. A genuinely strong leader does not need to micromanage everything. They know exactly when to yield control. You and I are going to unpack this, because the boss just admits the rules have totally changed, and walks out. Emily is left sitting in her quiet room, desperately trying to process all these wild feelings in a solid game plan. Turns out, her dad, Robert Harper, did not flee to the States at all. The guy has been hiding out in a smaller villa just 20 minutes down the road. Finding out he was practically next door for 3 weeks hits Emily incredibly hard. They bring him to the main house right at 2 in the afternoon. Emily meets him in the sitting room, making sure the doors are wide open. When she finally sees her dad, he looks absolute awful. He is crazy thin and looks 10 years older. Holding on tox guilt will physically age you way faster than time ever could. The second Emily walks into the room, her father jumps up nervously. She just looks at him and firmly tells him to sit down. She is totally running the show now. Sitting across from him, she finally allows herself to really look at the guy. This is the man who raised her completely alone since she was 9 years old. The dad who was a terrible but super enthusiastic little league coach. The guy who worked 3 exhausting jobs just to put food on the table, but still managed to make the absolute worst, most catastrophic decision of his entire life, claiming he did it all to protect her. Emily is done playing games. She looks him dead in the eye and demands the whole truth. Even the people who love us the absolute most are completely capable of making massive, devastating mistakes. She tells her dad to drop the protective filter and give her every single dirty detail. For 40 straight minutes, Robert spills his guts. Emily does not interrupt him once. She just sits there, completely blank, soaking in this massive dump of heavy trauma like an absolute pro. When he finally finishes rambling, he tells her that Alec could have totally destroyed their family years ago, but actively chose not to. Replies, I know, her dad is totally shook. She folds her hands like a complete boss and explains that she has been paying close attention for 3 weeks. She admits the Mafia Don is not the monster they thought he was, but she shuts her dad down. You completely understand why someone made a toxic choice, but you never have to excuse it. Listen to me on this one, because it hits deep. Emily is not even yelling anymore, which honestly makes it so much more brutal. She calmly tells her dad that he should have spilled the secret, the absolute second things got bad. Even if they could not magically fix the massive money debt, she at least deserved the chance to fight alongside him. Her dad starts tearing up. Completely speechless, Emily hits him with the ultimate reality check. She tells him she is definitely not forgiving him today. But she finally understands his fear. She knows he made a desperate choice in the dark, and convinced him he was being a hero. But he has to live with the guilt that it was never really for her. Real love is facing the ugliest truths together as a team, not hiding them in the dark. You know, sometimes in life, you make sacrifices for others. But there are moments when you realize those choices were never truly yours to begin with. Emily felt that raw truth when she spoke to her father. Robert, he just uttered a soft "I know," barely a whisper, as if the weight of his actions settled on him. She stood, firm yet gentle, telling him, "I need you to go back to the States." His head snapped up, a sharp Emily escaping his lips, a mixture of protest and desperation. But she cut him off, explaining, "It's not about anger. It's because having you 20 minutes away, helpless and worried, isn't good for either of us, and it certainly isn't good for you." Her gaze softened as she urged him, "Go home, Dad. Get yours together. I'll tell you I'm okay." She paused, her voice thick with emotion. "And Dad, truly, I am okay. I want you to understand that. It's not the path I would have chosen, but I'm making it work. I'm okay." Robert stood, slowly crossing the room, and she let him pull her into a long, comforting embrace. Her face pressed against his shoulder, finding a momentary solace in his familiar presence. That scent, that familiar comfort and smell of him. It was home. It had been her home, her safe harbor, for her entire 20 years. She allowed hers to sink into it, to fully feel that last lingering connection, before she pulled back, the decision firm in her eyes. Go home. She and he, without another word, simply went. Emily then found Alec in the East study. The very room where the intruders had held him captive fussed 2 nights prior, a detail she noticed. A chill running down her spine, but chose not to voice. He was on the phone, and as she peered in the doorway, he held up a single finger, a silent request for patience. He finished the call in barely 30 seconds, placing the phone down with a quiet click. "How was it?" he asked. His voice even hard, she admitted. Her honesty unwavering, but necessary. Her gaze swept around opulent study, taking in the towering shelves packed with books, the imposing desk. The tangible evidence of a life meticulously built over decades within a world most people never even knew existed. "I need to ask you something. And I need you to answer me with the same honesty you always do. All right, what happens to my father's debt now? Practically, where do we stand?" Alec leaned back in his grand chair, a picture of calm confidence, and simply stated, "It's settled." His words hung in the air, seemingly definitive. Yet Emily's mind raced, searching for the logic. She pressed. Confusion etched on her face. "Nothing's been signed. We're not married." "There's been no official arrangement," he repeated, with an unshakable conviction that sent a shiver down her spine. "It's settled. I cleared it 3 weeks ago." Emily stared, her mind struggling to process this revelation. "You cleared it, before anything was decided?" "Yes," he confirmed, his gaze unwavering, meeting hers directly. "Why?" she demanded, the single word brimming with a mix of disbelief and dawning realization. He held her eyes, his response measured, "Because the debt was real. And the threat to your father was very real. And I wasn't going to leave that hanging over you as a tool." "That's not," he paused, carefully choosing his next words. A rare moment of vulnerability from a man who rarely spoke of such things. "That's not how I want this to be." The silence in the room became absolute, profound, like a heavy blanket settling over everything. Emily slowly, deliberately, sat in the chair opposite his desk, her mind reeling. The implications of his words began to sink in, chilling and profound. "So, I was never actually trapped," she murmured, the statement half question, half stark realization. "The debt is cleared. I could have just left at any point." Alec's voice was quiet, almost a confession. "The passport was always in your bag. That was intentional." A sudden intensity in her gaze. "Everything is intentional with you, isn't it?" she challenged, the edge in her tone unmistakable. "Then what is this? Alec, what have the last 3 weeks even been? What exactly are you asking for?" If not a transactional arrangement. Alec remained silent for a long, drawn-out moment, his thoughts hidden behind an unreadable facade. His voice was level, almost impossibly calm, but Emily, having learned his subtle tells, could discern the currents beneath that controlled surface. "I asked your father for you because I believed it was a transaction," he admitted, a surprising layer of honesty in his words. "An arrangement, practical, clean, mutually beneficial in very specific ways. I thought." He paused again, a beat of true reflection. "I was not expecting you to be." "What does that even mean?" Emily asked, a flicker of something she dared not name stirring within her. Alec chose his words with meticulous precision, as if each one held immense weight. "It means," he he began, "that you are not what I planned for. You are not," he cut him off, clearly struggling to articulate a sentiment he rarely, if ever, allowed him to feel. "I've spent 30 years building something, Emily, damn. What I've done, and what that means for anyone close to me. I've never, not once, permitted myself to want something that I hadn't meticulously calculated, analyzed, and controlled." He looked at her directly, his dark eyes intense, revealing a vulnerability she hadn't seen before. "You, however, have considerably broken that long-standing habit." Emily's heart was doing something wild and erratic, a sensation she consciously chose not to dissect. She quickly interjected, her voice firm. "Alec, I'm not asking you to feel something you don't genuinely feel. I'm not asking you to stay because of an arrangement, or a debt, or anything at all. Except your own uncoerced choice. It's a good lesson for us all. Isn't it? True connection only blossoms when both sides are genuinely willing." "That's what I should have said from the very beginning, and I didn't," Emily continued, the raw honesty clear in her voice. She paused, a brief, almost imperceptible hesitation. "Because I wasn't honest with myself yet about what I actually wanted." The quiet, powerful question hung in the air between them, dropping like an irreversible truth. "And what you actually want?" Emily asked. Her voice barely a whisper, yet it resonated with immense weight. He held her gaze, a profound sincerity in his dark eyes. "I want you choose to be here," he stated, his voice calm, resolute. "That's all. Not because of your father's past mistakes. Not because of any financial obligation. Just because you genuinely want to be here. By your own free will." Emily looked at this man, silver-haired, radiating a power that, even now, sometimes sent a shiver of fear through her. Yet his honesty, time and again, continued to catch her off guard, surprising her in ways she hadn't thought possible. She thought about the young woman who had arrived just 3 weeks prior, clutching her worn backpack, her meager $1,100, and her fist clenched tight against a hostile world. It's a vivid reminder that sometimes, the true path to freedom isn't found in escape, but embracing unexpected choice. She thought about how utterly certain she had been, how absolute convinced she understood who the enemy was, who she needed to fight. "Aren't there yet," she said, her honesty a fragile, exposed thing. "I need you to truly unlearn that. I can't tell you right now that I'm choosing this, but I can tell you this, I'm not running." A subtle shift, barely perceptible, passed over Alec's stoic face. "That's enough," his voice a balm. "It's not a love story," Emily countered. "Not yet, anyway. I don't know what it is," he admitted, his gaze steady. "Neither do I," she confessed, and the raw, unexpected honesty of that statement, a 7-year-old man, a man who had controlled every room he'd ever stepped into. Admitting such a profound lack of knowing was, strangely, the most disarming thing he had ever said to her. She stood, moving toward the door, but paused just before exiting. "The night of the attack," she said, her back still to him, her voice low, "when they demanded to know where I was. You didn't tell them. We all face moments when the truth is difficult to speak. But the integrity of silent protection can speak volumes louder than any words." A heavy silence settled in the room, thick with unspoken meaning. "Why?" she asked again, her voice almost a plea, not really for an answer. After a long, drawn-out pause, his voice came, barely a whisper, yet resonating with an undeniable truth. "You know why?" And she did. She had known deep in her gut since that terrifying moment in the corridor, when she realized he had chosen to shield her. She had simply needed to hear him not say it, because sometimes the most profoundly honest answers are the ones a person can't quite bring them to articulate aloud. The ones communicated through actions rather than words. With that understanding, she walked out of the study, leaving the weight of their conversation behind her. Chuck, the week that followed felt different, not in a dramatic, explosive way, but in a subtle, pervasive shift. There was no single pivotal scene, no grand declaration, no clear line drawn between what was before and what was now. Instead, it was different the way the weather changes. A subtle alteration in the quality of the air, a series of small, accumulating things that slowly, steadily shifted the landscape of her new reality. She started eating breakfast without even thinking about it as a strategic decision anymore. And, for the first time, she began answering Alex's questions about her day with more than just the bare minimum, actually engage in a real conversation. She couldn't help but notice, and actually allowed hers to notice, the specific, almost intense way Alec truly paid attention when she spoke. He wasn't just waiting for his turn to talk. a common performance she'd seen from countless powerful individuals over the decades. He was actually listening, genuinely absorbing her words. A rare trait from someone who had probably sat through endless meetings filled with people, merely feigning engagement. Then, something else shifted. Nikolai started appearing at breakfast. To this, as Sophia's carefully neutral expression subtly conveyed, was definitely not his usual habit. He would sit directly across from Emily and engage her in lively debates about mathematics. Specifically, whether the inherent elegance of a proof truly mattered if the ultimate answer was correct. Emily, of course, passionately insisted that it did, while Nikolai steadfastly argued it was entirely subjective, a matter of taste. And all the while, Alex sat at the head of the table, slowly drinking his coffee, saying very little, but watching them both with an expression he likely believed was utterly unreadable. Emily, however, was beginning to read it with surprising clarity, seeing beneath the surface to the man truly observing. On Thursday of that very week, a small, unassuming detail would change everything. On that Thursday, the university entrance exam results for Nikolai finally came back. It wasn't just a pass, he had scored incredibly high, landing in the top 3% nationally. Emily actually found out from Sophia before Nikolai had even bothered to check his phone. Which just goes to show you how new travels in that house. She immediately went to find him, and there he was, standing in the corridor outside his study, phone clutched in his hand, utterly still. It was that specific kind of stillness. The way someone holds them when they're absorbing news, so monumental, so much bigger than anything they had dared to prepare for. She said, her voice filled with quiet pride. He looked up, his face a whirlwind of youthful, unguarded emotion, completely raw and unmanaged. I didn't think, he trailed off, the words catching in his throat. I thought maybe top 10, at best, I told you. A small, knowing smile playing on her lips. 3 weeks ago, I told you that you would succeed. Life has a funny way of proving us right, sometimes when we least expect it. It's fine. Nikolai clarified, a playful edge to his voice. You didn't say top 3%. Emily just shrugged, a small, knowing smile on her face. I just had a feeling. He looked at her then, those dark eyes so like his father's, filled with an intensity and sincerity that landed directly in her heart. Thank you for that, he said, his voice surprisingly deep with genuine gratitude. For saying it when you didn't have to. For saying it when you didn't have to, when everyone else just saw me as a problem. Emily, never quite knowing what to do with such direct praise from teenagers, simply shrugged again, feeling a warmth spread through her. Go tell your father, she instructed, her voice firm. Nikolai hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He doesn't always know how to. He's going to want to know, Emily interrupted, her tone unwavering. Go. Nikolai, without another word, sprinted down the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, the anticipation and excitement radiating from him. Emily remained in the corridor, listening intently, and from somewhere below, she heard the low murmur of Alex's voice, followed by something she hadn't heard from him in the entire 3 weeks she'd been living in that house. Laughter, real, genuine and warm, completely unguarded, stripped bare of all the layers of control he usually wore so tightly. It was the sound of a father genuinely proud, genuinely happy. Emily slow sank down on the top stair, resting her chin in her hand, allowing hers to feel the complicated, unnamed swirl of emotions blossoming in her chest. She didn't try to categorize it, didn't try to control it, didn't even attempt to turn it into something manageable or easily explainable. She was, after all, only 20 years old, far from home in a foreign country, having arrived with absolute no plan, no real choice, and no idea whatsoever what kind of world she was truly walking into. And honestly, she still didn't have a concrete plan for the future. But for the very first time, a profound realization washed over her. She wasn't looking for the exit anymore. No, what she was looking for now was the door further in, a deeper entry into this life she was building, and that, in its own way, terrified her more than anything that had come before, more than the shattering glass, more than the terrifying intruders. It's a powerful lesson, isn't it? Sometimes. The most daunting step is the one that leads you deeper into the unknown, right into the heart of where you truly belong. This realization hits her harder than anything her terrible father ever did. Up until now, everything bad had just happened to her. She was always the victim of someone else making terrible choices. But this right here, she is choosing this chaotic mafia life all on her own. And that is the hardest truth to swallow. You can never blame anyone else for the life you actively choose for yours. Taking ownership is scary, but it is the only way to actually live. She hears footsteps and quickly stands up, trying to play it cool. Alec walks up the stairs and freezes when he sees her. He proudly says his son scored in the top 3%. His tough mob boss armor is totally gone, his voice is so much lighter, and he is looking at her with absolute, unguarded admiration. Absolute cinema. Totally deadpan. I told him he would be fine. Alec stared at her, completely stunned. You did, he asked. 3 weeks ago. You opened a door you had zero business opening, and told a stranger he would be fine. He paused, looking at her like she was an alien. Why? Emily did not even blink. Because someone should have. The stairs went dead quiet. Down below, Nikolai was buzzing on the phone about his scores. And right there, Alec Videra, a boss who spent 30 years having everything calculated, was looking at a girl who just broke his entire matrix. Emily was staring right back, not sweating a drop. Stick with me, guys, because sometimes the biggest flex isn't holding a weapon. It is holding your ground. I am not running. Dropping her voice. It was the exact same thing she told him back in the study. But this time, it hit way different, heavy, intentional. I heard you fought back. I know, Emily replied. I wanted to say it again then. Out of nowhere. Alec reached out. Not a full hand grab, just the lightest brush of his knuckles against hers. A split-second question mark. Gone before you could process it. Emily did not pull away. That one tiny moment was the whole summary of their vibe right then. Not a start. Not a finish. Just two heavy hitters standing in the absolute unknown. Nothing was locked in. But suddenly, the board was wide open. Life lesson. The strongest move you can make is staying put when everything tells you to bolt. It was not a romance yet, but the plot was definitely twisting. Emily, who literally rolled in this mafia underworld, ready to fight for her freedom, was having a massive reality check. She was figuring out that being an absolute boss does not mean you have to be made of stone. Finding your power and actually letting someone in, totally possible to do both. She realized that sometimes the absolute worst nightmares drop you right into the realest chapters of your life. Life gives you what you need when you stop forcing the script. Anyway, the big plot twist dropped on a random Tuesday. No epic soundtrack. No slow-motion Brapan. No dramatic rain outside. Just pure, unfiltered reality, smacking her right in the face when she least expected it. She found out all by herself in the bathroom at 6:40 in the morning. She used a test she bought from a random pharmacy 3 kilometers out. Straight up lying to her mob driver about needing shampoo. She walked the last block solo, stood in the store aisle for 4 whole minutes, and carried that little box to the register like a stone-cold professional. But let me tell you, it was a massive deal. She sat on the edge of that cold bathtub, stared at the plastic stick, and her brain just flatlined, not empty. But that terrifying freeze, when your entire life path violently changes lanes and your brain struggles to catch up. She was only 20 years old. It just proves that no matter how much you plan, one single moment can completely rip up your entire blueprint. She had been surviving in Italy for 11 crazy weeks. They were not married yet. The big mafia wedding had been hyped up, delayed, and talked about on a loop, but honestly, neither of them was rushing it. They were circling the idea like pros, knowing that if you force something delicate, it shatters. The real kicker, she had not even told Alec she was staying for good. She just kept saying she was not running. By the 3rd time, she did not even have to say it. It was just the new reality, totally unspoken. She stared at that test for what felt like centuries. Then, pure poker face, she shoved it in her pocket and marched straight down to breakfast. Alec was already there. Life lesson. True commitment never needs a loud announcement. It just becomes obvious over time. Tube hair open. Black coffee. The exact same routine she had memorized over 11 weeks, until this mafia mansion stopped feeling like a prison and started feeling like home. She sat down. The housekeeper poured her a coffee she completely ignored. Alec glanced up from his paper, and boom. He read her expression in under 2 seconds. It used to creep her out, but now she secretly counted on it. What is wrong? He demanded. And it was not a suggestion, she replied, keeping her voice leveled. He completely folded the paper, all of his intents. Boss-level focus locked right onto her. You guys know you have to face the music eventually, right, Emily? He warned. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the test, and slid it on the table. The silence in that room dragged out for exactly 4 seconds. She literally counted them in her head. Then Alec finally looked up, and his face did something totally wild. The big bad mafia boss completely crumbled, not in a crying way, but like a guy who controls every single shadow in the city. suddenly reeling he has zero power over this one tiny piece of plastic. Emily, he breathed. I know, she shot back. How do you feel? Asked. I do not know yet, she admitted, scared. And something else I do not even have a word for. Then, he reached right across the table. He did not grab the test. He grabbed her hand. Just held it steady, making zero demands. It shows you that true support is not about having answers. It's about being present when things get terrifying. Tell me what you need, he ordered softly, did not even hesitate. I need you to not make a single decision for me, she fired back. I need this to be mine. Yes, she locked eyes with him, and I need to know that if I choose this life, the Mafia wedding, staying here, all of it, it is because I actually chose it. She pointed right at the plastic test. Not because of this. Not because I felt trapped into it. Alex stared her down, his gaze totally unwavering. I know the exact difference. He told her straight up. Do you? Yes, he replied. I have known the difference since the very first morning you sat at this table and demanded answers instead of throwing a tantrum. Real power is setting boundaries and making sure nobody crosses them. You have been calling your own shots since the second you walked through my doors, Alec told her. I am absolutely not taking that from you now. Emily stared down at his hand covering hers. Her brain flashed through the last 11 weeks. The heavy contract law books. The brutal Italian lessons. Getting trained by Marco, the mob enforcer. She thought about the shattered glass in the hallway, and how this ruthless man actually protected her. She thought about the tension on the stairs and the weight of her own words. I am not running, she said. And this time, it was the absolute final time she would ever need to say it. Alec flipped her hand over and gripped it for real. You see, trust is not given overnight. It is built piece by piece until you stop looking for the nearest exit. I know. Alec sealing the deal. Later that exact afternoon, Emily picked up the phone and dialed her father. He answered on the second ring, which basically meant he was practically sweating by the phone. Completely drowning in that massive guilt trip, Emily was slowly unboxing. She was not handing out a free pass yet, but she was starting to understand him, which honestly takes serious maturity. She said. The dead silence on his end was heavy enough to crush a car. Dad, I am totally okay, she rushed out. I need you to process that before I say the recite. He choked out, so she dropped the bomb. You could literally hear the oxygen leave his lungs. He was juggling pure shock, panic, and dark mob-level complications. Emily, her dad, finally croaked out. What are you going to do? She did not even stutter. I am having this kid, she declared, and I am marrying him. Not because of the baby. And definitely not because of your insane debt. I am doing this because I want to. She let that hang in the air. He is not the monster we thought he was. Dad. The silence that followed was thick enough to slice with a knife. Are you happy? Her dad asked, his voice completely wrecked. Emily actually paused to think about it, giving the question real respect. I am getting there, she admitted. And honestly, I am getting there way faster than I ever thought. She heard a massive sigh of relief. Sometimes. The most powerful thing you can own is your truth, even when it sounds crazy. Then that is enough. That has to be enough. Emily did not miss a beat. Come to the wedding, she ordered. I want you there. Are you sure? He asked. You are my father, she replied, keeping it painfully simple. The wedding itself, totally low-key. Emily demanded a tiny guest list, and Alec agreed immediately. Zero pushback, just 12 people. Sophia, the housekeeper, was there, crying with that scary, strict business mafia posture. And Nikolai, he rolled up from college looking like a mess. Reeling that being a lone wolf genius does not mean you have it figured out. Life lesson. Major events do not need a massive crowd. Just the real people who survived the storm with you. Emily just watched Nikolai across the room, finally at peace. We jump straight to the room before the ceremony, and this younger guy catches Emily watching. He walks right up, hands in his pockets, and asks if she is nervous. She admits she is a little on edge, but he looks at her with this unshakable confidence and tells her not to sweat it. He has been watching Alec for 16 long years, and he knows exactly what it looks like when the boss actually cares. He says he has only seen it once with him, and once right now. The implication is massive. Emily looks at this young man, who is literally about to escape this wild life and head to a university, and she feels this huge rush of warmth in her chest. Look, the biggest flex in life is not having power or money. It is knowing you made a positive impact on someone else's future. Nikolai does that classic moody teen shrug, acting like he is allergic to genuine emotion, and dips to stand by his dad. Robert Harper actually shows up 20 minutes early to the ceremony. He looks way better than he did back in that depressing sitting room. Still rough around the edges, he walks right up to Emily. Zero speeches, no dramatic apologies. He just grips her hands and stares at her, like he wants to permanently download her face into his brain. He finally breaks the silence, saying her mom would have had a whole lot to say about this wild setup. Emily actually laughs. A real, genuine laugh. The lesson here: sometimes the darkest moments just need a tiny joke to crack the tension. Emily agrees her mom would have been extra, arriving a day early just to micromanage the seating chart. She tells Robert her mom would have actually liked him, once she got past the chaos of this mafia arrangement. Emily knows her mom respected people who kept it 100% real. Alec would have driven her up the wall, but totally earned her respect in record time. Robert squeezes her hands, telling her he is incredibly sorry and will be apologizing for a very long time. Emily just looks right back at him. She tells him she will be listening, but she is right here. They are okay. Honestly, you and I could learn something huge from this scene. True forgiveness is not about ignoring the messy past. It is simply deciding to finally step forward together. The ceremony is shockingly short, uncomplicated, and real. You know how small moments hit different when they are not performative nonsense for a massive audience. The official speaks Italian, while Sophia translates in a low murmur. Emily nails her part, speaking clearly. Then it is Alec's turn. He delivers his lines while locking eyes with her. Using that intense stare she spent 11 weeks decoding, the man never looks away. The lesson here is that true presence speaks way louder than grand gestures. Later, they are in the courtyard with this gorgeous late afternoon, light hitting everything perfectly. Alec steps up beside her and softly asks how she feels. Emily does not even hesitate. She simply says, "Like my f." So she absolutely means it. Alec stares at her and says that is everything. But wait for it. Because Emily hits him with the ultimate plot twist. She whispers, "Not quite everything," and touches her stomach for a split second. Alec tracks her hand, and when he looks back up, his stoic mafia boss persona crumbles. All that ruthless control vanishes. He looks like a man completely blindsided by his own life, and softly agrees. The real lesson here: no matter how carefully you plan, the best moments are the ones that catch you totally off guard. Fast forward 3 weeks. Emily is digging through Alec's legitimate business documents. Not the shady underground crime stuff, but 30 years of totally clean property holdings and massive legal investments. She demanded to understand his empire, and he agreed so fast it was obvious he was waiting for her to ask. But then she finds the file. It is not even hidden, guys. It is sitting right there in a drawer she was told to check. Inside a folder literally labeled with her name. Inside is a legal document dated just 3 days after she first touched down in Italy. She reads it twice, goes completely rigid, and marches out to find Alec. He is in the garden handling boss business on the phone. But the second he catches her lethal expression, he hangs up immediately. Emily drops the bomb. She says he put her name on the property 3 days after she arrived, way before she ever agreed to this crazy arrangement. The life lesson? True trust is what people freely give you before you even ask for it. Alec looks at the pavered and says yes, the Rome apartment, the Florence house, the villa, and a bank account loaded with enough cash to make her dad's debt look like pocket change. Emily is stunned and asks him why. Alec calmly explains that if she grabbed her passport and made a run for it, he wanted her to leave with real power. Not because of their twisted deal, but because she deserved it. Emily realized he was giving her a golden parachute, while simultaneously begging her to stay. He did not tell her because that would have turned it into a cheap negotiation, and he refused to play it that way. You and I need to remember this truth. Real generosity is never a bargaining chip. It is simply a gift given with absolutely zero strings attached. He wanted that wealth to be hers no matter what. Emily stands there. Reeling, she spent 11 grueling weeks, thinking she had to hustle to build an advantage and fight for her agency. Meanwhile, this absolute madman had left the front door wide open since day 3. Never once use it to manipulate her. She slowly tells him he is a very unusual man. Alec smirks, saying he is not sure if that is a compliment, but he does not care. Emily slaps the document down and tells him she is not going anywhere. Alec says now she knows she has a clear document choice. But Emily claps back, saying she always had the choice because her passport was in her bag since night 1. The real takeaway here: true power is not about forcing someone to stay. It is about giving them every reason to never leave. Alec nods, But they both know this hit's different, but just an emergency. But this money was a solid foundation. He gave her the ultimate power to stay as an absolute equal in a dangerous world that used to be entirely his. Emily calls him out, saying he planned this genius move from the beginning. Alec smooth corrects her. He only hoped, because he was never certain about her. She was wildly unpredictable, and she still constant surprises him. Emily stares at this man who completely blew up her old life, handed her the tools to rebuild it, put a baby in her, and somehow became the most brutally honest person she ever met. The lesson? The people who shatter your reality are sometimes the exact ones who help you build a much stronger one. Emily hits him with a reality check. She says she needs to call her friend, Dana. Dana has been waiting for the real tea for 11 weeks, so Emily owes her an hour of straight gossip. Emily tucks that massive document under her arm and casually mentions they need to fix up the Florence house. Because she has major opinions about the study, you should see Alec's reaction. Something shifts deep in his stoic mafia face. He asks, amused, if she has opinions about the study. She fires back that she has opinions about literally everything, which he should have known in the first 15 minutes. A totally unguarded, massive smile finally breaks across his face. The lesson here. The absolute best thing you can give your partner is just unapologetically being your chaotic, highly opinionated self. It is the smile of a guy who finally stopped fighting his own happiness. Cut to the phone call, and Dana picks up on the absolute first ring. She uses Emily's full government name and gives her exactly 30 seconds to explain the last 11 weeks. Or she is flying out to Italy to throw hands. Emily just kicks her feet up in a room that finally feels like her own territory. She tells Dane to get comfortable because this is going to take a while. Dana demands to know if the news is good or bad. Emily pauses. She thinks about the insane mafia drama, the Rome airports, a glass violently shattered against a wall, and a dangerous Dawn who held her hands until the shaking stopped. Life tip. Sometimes the most beautiful chapters of your story start with absolute, unhinged chaos. Her mind flashes through it all, the tense moments, the gentle touches, and that insane document dated 3 days after she landed. She compares the terrified girl who stepped off that plane to the boss she is right now. She did not choose this mafia life at first, but now she would choose it 100 times over. She tells Dane it was both bad and good, but now, it is just good. Flash forward 6 months later. Alec, the untouchable crime boss, is standing in a hospital corridor for the first time ever. The guy literally does not know what to do with his hands. He casually handles mob intruders and deadly negotiations without his heart rate spiking. He usually moves through danger like water, but right now, the man is completely glitching out. The lesson. True growth means letting yours be terrified by the things that actually matter. Emily had never seen him look so incredibly fragile, 57 years old, and all that heavily guarded mental architecture has completely collapsed. Nikolai is standing next to him. The kid is 18 now, a university student, and doing a hilariously good job acting like he is calm for his dad's sake, even though his leg is bouncing like a jackhammer. The door clicks open, and Alec instant rushes in. Inside, Emily is exhausted, stripped of all pretenses. Holding something incredibly tiny and brand new, she looks up as Alec walks through the door, and guys, his expression totally shatters. It is that rare look she had only pulled of him twice before. You and I know this is the real payoff, the life lesson. The biggest empires in the world mean absolutely nothing compared to the fragile things we actually build from scratch. He crosses the room and sits right next to her. He stares down at this tiny brand new human in her arms, looking like a man who has officially forgotten every single word he ever learned. Emily softly says hi. The ruthless mafia boss literally cannot form a sentence. Emily has never seen him this speechless, so she just soaks in the pure emotion of it. She smiles and whispers that the baby has his eyes. Outside, the corridor is buzzing with normal hospital noise, and Nikolai is out there doing an award-winning performance of a guy who is definitely not crying. But inside that room, it is just the two of them, and this brand new little girl who has absolutely zero clue what kind of wild world she just joined. The ultimate life lesson here is simple. Every massive ending is really just the start of a brand new, unpredictable plot twist. Fast forward through the chaos, guys, and we get this incredibly emotional flash forward. Alec promises Emily their baby girl will know she was chosen out of pure love, not some shady mafia contract. Emily stares back, saying their daughter will know her mom built an empire from scratch, and her dad was the most honest criminal to exist. Alec just cracks up. a genuine messy laugh showing his fully human side. Emily looks down at her baby, declaring that the absolute worst nightmare of her life somehow became her greatest blessing. Outside the room, Nikolai finally drops his tough guy act and beams with pure joy. The ultimate lesson here, even the most toxic, disastrous beginnings can slowly transform into the most beautiful chapters of your entire life if you truly fight for them. Alec reached out, his hand finding Emily's free one, wrapping around it with a familiar, comforting pressure. He held it just as he had on every daunting staircase, in every long corridor, in every single moment that had required a steadying presence. A quiet reassurance. It was a hold that was sure, unwavering, devoid of any pretense or performance, simply present, simply there, offering a quiet strength. Just, Emily murmured, the single word encompassing a profound understanding. She looked at him. And in that moment, with the complete, uncomplicated clarity that only comes when you've chosen something with every fiber of your being, she knew. She was exactly where she had decided to be. Not where her father's desperate debt had cornered her. Not where fear, or brute force, or the relentless circumstances of her life had placed her. Not where anyone else's story had tried to write her destiny. No, she was here because she had chosen it, consciously, with her eyes wide open, her mind clear, and everything she had painstakingly built over 20 years of learning how to be strong enough to also embrace a softer, more vulnerable path. It's a beautiful reminder that our most significant choices are those we make for ourselves, armed with our own strength and clarity, allowing us to define our own narrative. Guys, think about how wild this journey has been. Emily first touched down in Rome with clenched fists, ready to run for her life now. She is literally walking away with a daughter and an entirely unexpected Mafia family. She realized the most insane, powerful move she ever made was not surviving the attacks or outsmarting the mob bosses at the dinner table. Her ultimate power move she stay when no one forced her to. Not Alec Viator, not her father, not anyone. That choice belonged entirely to her, and honestly, you and I need to remember this for our own lives. Your circumstances might be completely chaotic, but your choices are your own. The moment you take true ownership of your decisions, you strip away the power of anyone trying to control you. Nobody can take that.
Emily's story begins with a terrifying situation. She is brought to Rome under false pretenses and discovers that her father has made a marriage arrangement to repay a debt. This moment is shocking because it takes away the most basic human right a person should have, the right to choose their own life. The strongest lesson here is that love, marriage, and loyalty have no real meaning if they are built on pressure. A person cannot be traded, negotiated, or used as payment for someone else's mistakes. Emily understands this immediately. She does not accept the arrangement quietly. She questions, resists, and makes it clear that no contract can own her future. This is an important educational message, especially for young viewers. Sometimes people in power may present control as protection. They may say, "I did this for your safety," or "You have no other option." But safety without freedom is not true safety. Protection without consent can become another form of control. What makes Emily powerful is not physical strength or wealth. It is her refusal to surrender her mind. Even when she is surrounded by people more powerful than herself, she keeps asking questions. She studies the situation, learns the rules, and looks for the truth behind every answer. Later, the story becomes more complicated because Alec does not completely behave like the monster she expected. But that does not erase the lesson. The beginning was wrong because Emily was not given a real choice. The educational lesson is clear. Every person deserves agency. No one should have to earn the right to decide their own future. Choice must come first. Without choice, even beautiful outcomes begin with injustice.